to another edition of Bulldog Blitz. I'm Liam Hickey, joined by Liam Cohen. We decided to hop on the pod for today's episode to talk about the IHSA playoffs, which are in full swing now. Should be a jam-packed episode. We'll start off by recapping some of the 3A and 4A heavyweights, such as Curie, Homewood Flossmoor, and Thornton. Then we'll dive into the most recent sectional scores that occurred March 1st. Also give some previews on super sectional games, which are happening tonight. Give our predictions and some recaps and everything else. So, Liam, what are you seeing from Curie? Number one seed overall from February 26th. I think they've remained number one seed.
Yeah, they have not moved. They have been sitting comfortably in that number one seed, and they've kind of deserved it with their regional round playoff win, 96-28 against Juarez. I didn't know that was a school. But then they beat LT 55-46. Somewhat close game, kind of scary there. LT is not a good team.
Yeah, they were 12-16 coming into the playoffs. RB beat them twice, once at home, once away. So I was kind of expecting to see maybe like a 20-point victory there. So, that was only 9 points. So somewhat alarming, but really did not faze them because in the next round, they had a 61-49 W versus Whitney Young. They've faced Whitney Young before in the Chicago Public League, in which they were the champions, beating Kenwood in the final game of the regular season. In that game, Carlos Harris, in the Whitney Young game, Carlos Harris had 22 points with Will Gonzalez having 10.
Yeah, so it's women at Homewood Flossmoor.
For sure.
They've been very good. They actually lost to Bolingbrook, who's now out of the playoff contention. That was a big upset loss.
Yeah, no, I really wanted to see Bolingbrook make a Cinderella run there. They improbably finished first, tied for conference with Homewood Flossmoor after winning the head-to-head by 2. Very close game led by freshman Davion Thompson. They unfortunately lost to DGN in the sectionals, which we will get to later. But yeah, back to Homewood Flossmoor. Johnny Cobb dropped 18 and Hurd dropped 14 in that tiebreaker game, with the final next games coming up against Lockport and Stag, in which they just won both.
Yeah, they dominated. Bryce Hurd went off against Lockport. 23 points, 7 rebounds. And Carson Brownfield, name you're not really hearing much from HF, dropped 20 points, 6 rebounds for a Stag.
Yeah, it looks like everyone's chipping in there. And then things finally got a little closer against Joliet West in the next round with a 68-66 nail-biter victory there.
Yeah, that one took them to OT. No one expected Joliet West to even put up a fight with HF.
No, yeah, I thought Joliet West was past their glory years with Jeremiah and Jeremy Fears, that, very threatening duo, but they're both gone, and they still somehow pulled out a very good result against Homewood Flossmoor.
Yeah, so we'll go on to our third team here, the Southland champs, Thornton.
Yeah, Southland champs. Morris Johnson had a double-double versus Crete Moni, 10 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 blocks. Just what a monster in the paint right there.
Yeah, and then there's Isaiah
Green, 20 points, 5 threes. Same game.
Big win versus Bremen in their regional round, 77-28, another blowout game. And then they went on to beat Crete Moni 60-35, as we just talked about previously. And in that Crete Moni game, Morris Johnson with another double-double. He dropped 11 points, 12 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 steals, and 3 blocks. What a stat line.
Yeah, he's really proving why he was voted the Chicago Sun-Times Player of the Year just a week back. He was also voted All-City First Team, unquestionably. He's averaging 17.4 points per game, 14.3 rebounds per game, and 3.4 assists per game on the season, along with 3.4 blocks per game.
Yeah, so now let's talk about their sectional matchup against Brother Rice.
Yeah, what a game that was.
Yeah, they went on to win 61-54. They kind of pulled away at the end. It was a really, really tight game, throughout the whole game. But Brother Rice couldn't really pull back. They had 11 straight points, but couldn't really fight back the deficit. Chase Abraham dropped 17 points with 3 rebounds. And no surprise, double-double, Morris Johnson, 17 points, 10 rebounds. He hasn't gone one game this season without at least 8 rebounds.
Wow. He was a monster per usual in that game, but I think it was really Chase Abraham who was the difference maker on that perimeter there.
Yeah, that's not really the most popular name you're hearing out of Thornton, and it's good to get these other guys, these role players, to play their role and play it strongly.
And, we're seeing, obviously, another case in point is Jack Stanton over at TGN. He's unquestionably the leader there, but he still has people around him chipping in. So it looks like there's this trio forming, big 3 in Thornton with Morris, Chase Abraham, and Isaiah Green.
Yeah, and that could be a scary duo. They could bring that out tonight in their big game.
Yeah, I mean, they snapped Brother Rice's 22-game win streak, and that was a formidable opponent. Kale Cosme, he's a great guard, small, but he's a D2 commit to Lewis University. He had a great highlight in that game where he went up for a floater, got denied, went back, dribbled around the whole other end of the court, and put up a number 3.
Yeah, that was a nice play. Very nice. On camera, it was a perfect shot. It was a really good hustle play. So let's go on to Curie over Simeon now.
Yeah. Carlos Harris, 25 points, monster game. And then Will Gonzalez in his homecoming back at RB where the game was held, had 16 points with a steal and a bucket at the buzzer to secure the win.
Yeah, that bucket at the buzzer, he just wanted to get that last shot in at RB. It was such a nice steal, nice finish, kind of just sealed the game.
Yeah, Will Gonzalez has been playing lights off this whole season, voted All-City third team, had 24 points in the LT Regional. And another name we're not seeing if we're mentioning that as well, finishing off that big 3 would be Tavion Collier. He had a double-double in that LT game, going 13 points and 13 rebounds. Big guy off the glass. They call him Windex because he's the glass cleaner. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's actually just what I call him. I
was going to say I haven't heard that one yet.
Yeah.
But if we want to talk about some big names, Lathan Somerville over at Richwoods. Rutgers commit 22 points in their 61-56 win over Metamora.
Yeah, and then this is a little bit of a sidebar, but I don't know what's going on at Rutgers, but they're building one hell of a program over there.
Yeah, what do they have? The top two picks in the 2024 draft class?
Yeah, number 2 and number 3, Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey. I mean, they're building something special over there for the Scarlet Knights over in New Jersey.
Yeah, and talk about something special. Richwoods has now jumped up in the rankings. They're top 5 now. They were unranked in the top 10 prior to their sectional round, and they're just jumping, and they've earned it.
Yeah, and now we will see a new 3A state champ this year with them eliminating the Metamora Redbirds. IO commit Cooper Koch had 22 points in the losing effort. Wasn't enough. Metamora had their 17-game win streak snapped against finally a decent opponent. It seems that they've been playing kind of somewhat, below the radar teams all season.
Then there was a couple other games we'll just go over. Homewood Flossmoor over Bloom. I feel like, everyone knew Homewood Flossmoor was coming out with that one. Bloom did kind of hold it tight, though. Yeah, Bloom, there were some opportunities there. Bloom had Elijah Lovemore, a junior point guard, dropped 18 points, 7 rebounds, and 4 assists in their 56-45 win against Marist in the previous round. He's probably their best player. He actually has 3 stars with offers from Bryant, UIC, and Eastern Illinois. Yeah, he's been their standout guy, but, you can't really have one guy beat a whole HF team. Exactly, especially when you're going up against Mac Heegemaster, Johnny Cobb, and Bryce Hurd. That's that big 3 we're talking about again there. They're just a disgusting 3. If we want to talk about a standout guy, Princeton commit Jack Stanton, 23 over Bolingbrook in their 69-52 win. Yeah, finally ending Bolingbrook's magical run. Jack Stanton will be teaming up with Glenbard West state champion Caden Pierce. Yeah. Who they had a magical Cinderella run themselves against Arizona in the March Madness last year. Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there. But, I mean, he just had some nasty plays that game. He had this beautiful, disgusting crossover that I think sent that kid's family back generations. Yeah. I mean, the kid is a generational talent. It's so clear. Yeah. And then continuing on, we have the Normal Community Ironmen winning 44-43 in a close one over Quincy, who was previously ranked. Normal could be a team that could challenge DGN. Yeah, they just beat previously ranked 10. That was Quincy. They were number 10. Normal actually was bumped out by Quincy earlier in the year. Normal was sitting in that 9 and 10 spot, but they lost a couple games, and they've kind of proved that they're back in that 10. Yeah, they're known for having some massive forwards in the paint. They have 6'10" and Jaheim Weber, who's a Wright State commit, as well as 6'9" Kobe Walter and 6'8" Noah Cleveland. Those are some guys that could contend with Jack Stanton. Yeah, and they gotta have a chip on their back. They only lost by 5, 45-40 back in January against DGN. Yeah, so these teams have seen each other. They know what's up. Ironman coming off of some momentum, having a dunk at the buzzer in that win against Quincy. So just some exciting IHSA basketball this time in March. Yeah, and don't want to skip over this one because we talked about them a lot in our last episode. De La Salle finally humbled by that powerhouse of Mount Carmel. Yeah, Chiaravino's back. He was injured couple games earlier in the season, but he's returned. And it looks like he's looking to leave an impression on this 3A conference. I think, we talk about teams like Thornton,
Rich Woods, but it looks like Mount Carmel could be a team to contend with in that 3A division as well.
Yeah, so let's move on to the super sectional preview here. We got Palatine, one of the teams that actually beat RB this year. A lot of RB fans were expecting a win.
Yeah, I mean, that was a heartbreaking putback at the buzzer there.
Yeah, that was bad. Both unranked teams in the preseason. Warren actually beat Palatine by 1 back in January, 57-56. And Palatine is led by Connor May, Winona State commit, and Tommy Elter.
Teaming up with Nick Taylor of Glenbrook North, as well as Arias Alajosis from former years at Riverside Brookfield. Connor May, he's a name that leaves a sour taste in the mouths of the RB basketball players this year. He was the one that scored the buzzer beater in their win over RB earlier in the winter. But yeah, I mean, they overcame a 12-point deficit versus Stevenson in the sectionals. So I think they are definitely capable of getting it done. But I would call Warren the favorites for a variety of reasons. For one, they're led by freshman guard Jackson Davis. He's been going off. He's also in one of the all-city teams been named to, as well as they started off very strong earlier in the season, top 10. And they have a 31-4 record, so they didn't really drop off at any point.
No, it was just kind of other teams overpowering them or thought they were overpowering them, and now they're the ones playing the super sectional. I also have Warren, though. Warren, I think, will come out with this one.
Yeah, and that game's being played at NIU. We'll see a lot of these super sectionals being played at some very good courts. We got some ISU venues, Illinois State, as well as 2 games being played, 3A and 4A at the UIC arena that RB played in earlier this season, where Loftus hit that game-winning shot.
Yeah, check out that episode with Danny Loftus. That was our first Bulldog Blitz episode.
That was.
Nice interview there, but talk about UIC. Possible game of the year right here. HF versus Curie.
Yeah, I think we both know it. I think these writers at Sun-Times, Sports Illustrated, they all know it. This is most likely going to be the state championship game. This is going to decide who's going to win 4A.
Yeah, I mean, they're both just powerhouses of teams. Like when you have guys like Carlos Harris and Will Gonzalez like on one side, and then you have Johnny Cobb, on the other side. They're just those are just great names. You can't really pull out that many great names from the other opposing 4A side.
Yeah, I mean, some of the best records in the state. HF at 30-4, Curie at 31-2, only 2 losses on the season. I think the only team matching that is DePaul at 32-2. But yeah, I mean, Curie's just been going off. Will Gonzalez and Carlos Harris versus Johnny Cobb and Bryce Hurd. It's going to be somewhat of a match to see. I mean, that's a premier matchup right there.
Yeah, and our other UIC battle will be Mount Carmel and St. Patrick. Mount Carmel has also already played at UIC. They're normal with the court. They know that court.
Yeah, and then once again, obvious favorites with Curvino back, Catholic League Player of the Year. But they're going to come up against Cinderella team right here, St. Patrick, led by junior guard E.J. Breland, has 15 points per game. St. Patrick's coach, Mike Bailey, has some experience in the sectionals. He's coached for 30 years. He's won 4 sectionals, but he's never actually made it to state finals. So we'll see if he'll get it done this year.
One thing you got to talk about that St. Patrick's team is that game against Notre Dame. That packed crowd, sold-out crowd. That's usually their game of the year, and they dominated that game, winning by, I believe, 20.
That game tends to be covered by the press a lot, and every member of the press was saying that was at that game that was just the energy is electric between both student sections. Yeah. The rivalry runs deep there. And it's great to see that showcased in a game of basketball.
Yeah, so let's talk about our other 32-2 team. Our only other team with 2 losses is DePaul College Prep. They play Crystal Lake South at Now Arena. Yeah,
I mean, DePaul just has an absolutely predatory defense. It'll be hard for Crystal Lake South to score even 40 on them. Mm-hmm. They have a great record, Crystal Lake South themselves. They're sitting at 31-3. But the thing is, they have not had a great strength of schedule this year.
Yeah. And DePaul College Prep has kind of been the same way, but they've also haven't lost any of those hard games that they've played.
Yeah. They played in a pretty tough conference, actually, with Brother Rice, St. Ignatius, Mount Carmel, and they finished 9-0 in conference, winning Chicago Catholic. That's insane.
Yeah, very, very strong defense again. They win a lot of these low-scoring games because they have the defense. Their defense has the tilt on the other side.
Yeah, and they mollywopped Niles Notre Dame 46-16 with big performances from Jalen McElroy, who's a 6'7" behemoth. He was voted All-City third team, while his teammate PJ Chambers, he'll be the main guard to watch out for on this team. Chambers had 19 points that game, and they're on quite the win streak right now. winning, I think, 14 games in a row.
Yeah, super, super strong team over there at DeFault College Prep. But now let's move on to our last matchup, Richwoods versus Thornton. This could also be one of the games of the year. One of, if not the hottest team right now is Richwoods. Lathan Somerville, he's been their upcoming guy who everyone has known. He's actually trending on SportsCenter. He's going crazy. He's been carrying them through these wins, got them into the top 10 spot. But then again, it's Thornton.
Yeah, I mean, Somerville has back-to-back 30-point games. How are you going to stop that momentum? Well, I think the answer is when unstoppable force meets immovable object. You got Morris Johnson on the other side of the paint there. Yeah. Star-studded matchup between both Big Ten commits, Somerville and Johnson. And then I think we talk about these big guys, but mentioning before, I think the difference makers are going to be Isaiah Green and Chase Abraham. Those guys on the perimeter that can knock down those shots.
Yeah, when you double team or take away guys like Morris Johnson, you need other guys that can step up, and those are two names of guys that will step up for Thornton.
Yeah, and then a good example of this would be looking at Purdue right now in March Madness in college basketball. They have, obviously, 7-foot forward Zach Edey, who's going to be named Player of the Year, Naismith's Player of the Year. But the thing is, people are saying this is the best team Purdue has put out on a court throughout these whole dynasty years that they've been having because they have this new guard stepping up, Braden Smith. He was very young last year, but now he's back and he's looking better than ever. And I think he can lead them to at least not a first-round exit against a 16 seed that happened last year. So,
yeah, and if we want to talk about guys stepping up for other guys missing out, we got to talk about Kenwood.
Yeah, Kenwood, big controversy surrounding them there. They had 4 players, 2 assistants, as well as their head coach, Mike Irvin, all being suspended after student-athlete residency fraud.
Yeah, so the fraud is 5 guys on the same team, all on the same basketball team, sharing one address. It got leaked, it got out, and all 5 of those players, no matter how far they made it, they would have been done for the IHSA playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, they were a cool story to follow. IHSA permitted Kenwood to continue playing in the playoffs as long as those players were barred from participating.
Yeah.
And they still managed to beat Oaklawn, a very good team, 60-54, with freshman Devin Cleveland leading the way. Illinois commit already in the class of 2027. He led the team to a win with an 18-point performance, and that was with a lot of JV players being brought up.
Yeah, and without those 5 key guys in their offense, to see a freshman step up and play with JV guys most likely older than him, that is a crazy performance from Devin Cleveland.
And it's so sad because the potential was there. They also had Chris Riddle, Alex Alston, top guys in these 2024 and 2025 classes, and then they just couldn't get it done because, well, they were breaking the rules. Mm-hmm. And because of that, they lost to Simeon 58-50 in the next round. RJ McKinney on Simeon, All-City First Team Player of the Year. Simeon, RB, were unfortunately very familiar with this team. Yeah. They beat them by 10 due to free throw troubles with RB.
Big free throw troubles. I believe RB nailed 1 free throw that entire game.
Yeah, I think the stat was they went...
I think it was 1 for 11, I want to say.
That was Stephen Brown, unfortunately.
Yeah, all Stephen, bro.
Yeah. Very tough game, Every dog has its day, as they say, so...
Yeah, but again, Devin Cleveland, to only end on an 8-point loss to a team like Simeon, this kid is a sensational talent.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just watch out in years to come. He's only a freshman. Let me reiterate that. So, I mean, him, Jackson Davis, another freshman, Gabe Solarski of the Bennett Red Wings, he's a sophomore, Davian Thompson. These are some of the guys of the future of the IHSA that we could see when we graduate. So, they'll be dominating the IHSA playoffs.
Yeah, so I believe that wraps up our episode this week.
Yeah, I'd say so too. I think we should just end it off by giving our predictions on who's winning 4A and 3A state.
Yeah. Obviously, we know 4A really comes down to the HF Curie game. I do have Curie taking this game, though, and I think Will Gonzalez will come out, play as he has all year. He's been a huge step up, and just like Carlos Harris says, I think they'll take this game and eventually move on and win. Yeah, I think I would agree with you there. Obviously, we're a little biased. We have more eyes on Will Gonzalez. We've seen how he's played for longer. But also, I'm going to say that because I think he has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. Mm-hmm. I actually looked him up on X the other day, or Twitter. I'm just going to call it Twitter. X is dumb. But his dad actually has a very similar Twitter handle to him, and he was complaining how he was named All-City Third Team, which I think is justifiable, especially with that 24-point performance against LT. Mm-hmm. It seems that they're taking this a little bit personal, and I wouldn't be surprised if he takes it out on HF at UIC.
tonight.
Yeah, and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. He was Curie's leading scorer the entire year.
Yeah.
I think he did end out being their leading scorer, but I mean, Carlos Harris put on a Chicago team above him. I think he was first team.
Yes, and as well as, I mean, Bryce Hart and Johnny Cobb. I'm sure there's some chemistry there, but they're in different classes. Meanwhile, you got Carlos Harris and Will Gonzalez. Not only are they both seniors, but they both play for the same EYBL team, Mean Streets.
Yeah, they have clear chemistry, those two.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully we'll see it show as Will Gonzalez playing with a big chip on his shoulder.
Not to mention Carlos Harris is playing at UIC where he is committed, so a lot of experience there.
Yeah, so we'll go on to 3A here. Mount Carmel, St. Patrick. That would be a big game, but it's going to be Mount Carmel.
I mean, yeah, it's got to be Mount Carmel. And then DePaul, I think, will just go cruise control over Crystal Lake South at Now Arena. And then ending it off with Thornton versus Ridgewoods. That's going to be one heck of a game.
It will be. It's really going to be Somerville versus Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever outplays the other, that's who will win this game.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen some of those home crowds that Ridgewood has. This is at a neutral venue. But I think if Ridgewood gets going early, they had the potential to beat Thornton. But I think Thornton's going to run away with this, and they're my pick to beat Ridgewoods, and they're also my pick to win state for 3A.
Yeah, I actually have to agree with you there. I mean, when you have just studs like they do on Thornton, you can't really beat that. I mean, Mount Carmel has Angelo Chiaravino, but there's no other pop-out names.
Yeah.
They were to both end up in the state championship. I don't see anyone taking down Thornton.
Yeah, well, that'll do it.
That'll wrap it up.
I mean, I'm glad that we're able to get this off. I mean, going on the pod, we couldn't waste any more time setting up in studio, so it's good that we were able to get this emergency thing out before the games tonight. So stay tuned, and hopefully our predictions were right.